everybody, Cinephile Mike, your friendly neighborhood cinephile is here, and I hope everyone had a wonderful and relaxing Memorial Day weekend and heeded those tips from El Salvavidas. Check out my review from last week if you haven't already had a chance to check out that documentary on Netflix. Also, to the race lovers, I hope you enjoyed the Indy 500 this past weekend, and a shout out to back winner Joseph Newgarden. As I said last week, today's episode is paying homage to that great trend of racing. Yes, it is episode 23 of Oscar Rewind 2024 edition. And for those who are joining me for the first time, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. My hope, as always, is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe rediscover something that you haven't seen in a while. As always, we'll talk box office, awards, and we're spoiler free here so you can go and enjoy that film. Let's jump right on in. We're going to go with the green flag. Today I'm talking about 20th Century Fox's Heart Like a Wheel. Written by Ken Friedman and Joan McCall and directed by Jonathan Kaplan, this is a biopic about drag racer Shirley Muldowney that was released in the spring of 1983. The film, as per Box Office Mojo, only posts a domestic release with no international box office information, so the domestic total and the grand worldwide total for this film is $272,278. Now, on the critical side, and I believe this is the first time this season, this film is based, yes, a small bank of 10 reviews, but it boasts a 100% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an audience score of 82% that was culled from over 1,000 reviews. So, how does Heart Like a Wheel earn its place on Oscar Rewind? Well, it's because of one of the individuals who brought us this film, and that is producer Charles Roven. Roven, who has had a career lows such as Razzie nominations, one for Worst Picture of the Year for 1992's Final Analysis, had his career high this past year when he won his first Oscar alongside Christopher Nolan and Emma Thomas for producing Best Picture winner Oppenheimer, which won an additional 6 Oscars this year. A big coup for Roven. Now, Heart Like a Wheel did not have an Oppenheimer-sized award season run, but it made its mark. It was, in fact, an Oscar-nominated film for its costume design with a nomination for William Ware Theiss. Additionally, the film was nominated for 2 awards at the Young Artist Awards, one for Best Young Actor in a Motion Picture for Byron Thames, and Best Family Motion Picture Drama, and the film's lead actress, Bonnie Bedelia, received her first acting nomination for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globe Awards for her portrayal of Shirley Muldowney. Apologies. So, Heart Like a Wheel is that story of Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, played by Bedelia. An early scene when we jump into the film shows a young Shirley sitting next to her dad as he is speeding along the way, and we just see that racing fast cars, this is in her blood, even at a young age. We will then quickly time jump. Shirley, now getting ready to graduate from high school, is a waitress in her hometown of Schenectady, New York, and she falls for a mechanic, John Muldowney, played by Leo Rossi. They are married, with the support of her family, although her father, while he does support this, does hope for his daughter to be more than just a housewife. He wants her to be self-sufficient and be able to make her way in the world. Now, while this doesn't happen quite as quickly as her family might want, Shirley does settle into her domesticity with Jack. Jack opens a garage. Eventually, they will have a child. But before we get to the child and the full domesticity, we will see that sometimes Jack would drag race some of the locals in the town, and this really revs Shirley's juices. And one night, she says, "Can I race?" And not only does she race, but unlike her husband, she actually wins. And this will repeat, and she will enjoy becoming that racing, winning those races, to the point where she will then go and try to get a sponsor so that she can get a car and a license and race more professionally as a means to help provide for her family. And unfortunately, being a 1960s housewife, nobody really takes her that seriously. But her husband, he does. So much so that he even builds her first car when she's unable to get a sponsorship. And then through a series of events as we follow, eventually we will see Shirley earn her National Hot Rod Association license so that she is able to race professionally. Necessarily the easiest thing to do in such a male dominated sport. But she perseveres and becomes one of the tops in her field. And this all sounds well and good. And she's making the money and she's bringing home the prizes. But this will take the toll on that personal life, as we've seen many, many times before, dramatized many times before. Her husband, once supportive, maybe doesn't feel so much. Additionally, she has found a supporter in fellow famed racer Connie Kalita, played by Beau Bridges, and this relationship will add some other challenges. And we will continue to follow Shirley on her journey and through her events to see how all of these events and the different races and these people have an impact on her life as a racer and beyond as she strives to become an independent woman. This was an entertaining film to discover, and if not for doing this rewind season, I don't know if this was a film I necessarily would have found. I mean, we've seen many racing films before, like Ford v Ferrari and Rush, and this past season's Ferrari, but this one seems to have a little bit more of a heart to it and a reality to it, as opposed to these big climactic racing scenes for the sense of ratcheting up the drama. Adelia is quite charming as Shirley, and I'm not saying this to diminish her role like she's a charming housewife, but she really gives us a character who you want to root for and be successful despite the challenges and the misogyny that's thrown in her way. She gives a very strong performance and is backed by supporting performances by these two men that kind of make this love triangle, Beau Bridges and Leo Rossi. They start one way, these men in her life, and then they shift. And some of the shifts I did not see coming come out of left field, which really made me take a moment to go back and go, whoa, and say, okay, good performances. Which makes all that Shirley has accomplished even all the more notable. And for the time, being filmed in the 1980s, I have to say the racing scenes were filmed quite nicely. Cinematographer Tak Fujimoto makes you feel some of the tension when the cars at times don't behave the way you hope they would. In fact, at times the action would happen and it would be so quick, and then, we would kind of move on without belaboring this point. So it almost seems like this is realistic what we would see. Oftentimes, in films like this, we'll see, you know, um, the odometer on a car or the gas levels like going slow, and it's this big dramatic moment, lots of orchestrations going on and building to this climactic. Not here. It's this happens in the reality of the situation. This is the aftermath, and let's move on. So it's almost a little bit more realistic, I felt, than some of the other racing films I've seen that try to go for over the top dramatics. And I will say, just because I want to bring it up, for its sole Oscar nomination, Diaz captures the spirit of the 1960s in the costumes extremely well, including all of the racing jumpsuits and costumes that all of the racers wear. But my one challenge that I had with this film was the rapid time jumps that weren't always clear. At times, we would see a title card placed with the year marked by a race or an event, but sometimes they came and went so quickly you weren't quite sure where we were. And, it's like, oh, she's won this many races. Oh, here's where she is in her life. The one thing that kind of helped was the actor change with her son. They had three different actors play her son over the course of the 30 or so years, a little less than 30 years. One actor covering the ages of 5 through 8, the next 10 through 13, and the final one who played her son from ages 15 to 23. And as he got older, had a little bit more facial hair, so it helped to show some of the time passing. I also want to reference Byron Thames, who received the nomination I referenced, played that middle chunk, the 10 to 13 years. So to that end, a little more clarity would have helped as we did these time jumps because events would happen and an aftermath would happen and we weren't quite sure how we got there. Otherwise, this film is a nice snapshot into the life of a woman who was a pioneer in her field. And hats off to Roven for, his first producing job in bringing this empowering story to the screen. And as we have seen with Oppenheimer, he keeps bringing us layered individuals that we want to see about. In all, Heart Like a Wheel, for me, this is a 4-star film. It's an enjoyable watch with good performances, a little dated in some of the effects, but that's okay. Now, if you would like to watch Heart Like a Wheel, or rewatch it if this is one you've seen and maybe forgot about, believe it or not, as of this recording and this post, you can actually find the whole film on YouTube. So, there you have it. I hope everyone is enjoying Oscar Rewind. Is there a film you're hoping I get to? Let me know in those comments. If you like what you heard here, please subscribe to the channel, spread the word. You can also follow me on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Please remember to check out my website, cinephilemike.com, where you can find exclusive reviews of all of this summer's new releases, Furiosa, Strangers, Fall Guy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and so much more to come as we're getting into summer movie season. It's going to be great. Happy watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.